Good evening. My name is Nicole Mark, and I currently serve as president of the Board of Directors of Burlington Green. On behalf of the BG Board of Directors and staff, I'd like to welcome you all to our annual general meeting, followed by the Seating Change film engagement discussion. We're so glad you could all join us today. Please note that we're recording the AGM portion of the evening, and I will be chairing the AGM portion for about 20 minutes or so. And then at 7 p.m., we expect more community members to join us for a post-film discussion with polls, prizes, and more. We hope you'll find the dual component event to be informative, engaging, and fun too. So some of us may be new to Zoom and need a refresher on some of the functions. For now, we've muted the participant lines to improve sound quality, and we invite you to type your comments and questions in the chat at the bottom of your screen. Zoom appears slightly differently depending on your device, but most likely you'll find the chat near the bottom right of your screen. You may need to move your mouse or cursor over the area for the chat icon to appear. You can see it pointed out in this image. It looks like a speech bubble. If you need any technical help, you can direct a chat message to @Sue-questions. Sue, could you put a message in the chat to help people find you? Great, thank you, Sue. If your device won't allow you to use the chat for some reason, you can also send your questions by email to sue@burlingtongreen.org. Two staff members participating in our AGM today include Sue, who I just referenced, who will be monitoring the Zoom chat to address and direct questions. Sue serves as our manager of donor engagement and philanthropy, and Amy, BG's executive director, will be sharing some impact highlights for 2020. Before I call the AGM to order and share this evening's agenda, I'd like to ask Amy to provide a land acknowledgement, please.
Thank you, Nicole. It's my pleasure. We respectfully acknowledge that many of us live and carry out our work on traditional Indigenous territories of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, Six Nations of the Grand River, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is part of the Dish with One Spoon Treaty, an agreement between the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We honor all the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people who have been living on the land since time immemorial, and we recognize their leadership in sustaining Mother Earth. We respect the four directions: land, waters, plants, animals, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. Back over to you, Nicole.
Thanks, Amy. It is now my pleasure to call the AGM to order. Quorum for the AGM is 7, noting that at last year's AGM, our charity bylaws were changed with membership now including our board of directors only. And by removing the associated fees, everyone in our community can be free to attend and join us at events like this and at other opportunities we offer all year long. I report that quorum is met and we have 11 directors present on this call and 1 proxy submitted to Brian Ellis, Corporate Secretary. All directors received the AGM package, including the resolutions that will be presented and voted on shortly. The AGM notice was also posted on BG's website and promoted in our newsletter. I've asked in advance for movers and seconders for all the motions that arise from the business portion of the AGM. And for everyone who's on the call that is not a board of director, please ignore the motion polls that you will see pop up on the screen. The board of directors will be asked to complete the super brief poll voting in favor, opposed, and or abstain, and the results will be displayed for everyone to see. So moving on. The AGM agenda consists of 7 items, followed by addressing any questions you may have, some closing comments, and then we'll welcome more people onto the call at 7 p.m. for the film discussion session. Currently, we're at the first item, presenting the agenda, and we'll be calling on the attending board directors to vote for a motion to approve the agenda, as well as the minutes from last year's AGM. Then we'll move on to the approval of a few more motions for the board of directors to vote on before I provide a financial summary of 2020, after which I'll invite Amy to share some highlights from the last year, and then we'll invite comments and questions before adjourning the meeting. So let's get started. Are you ready, board of directors? Susan Fraser has moved and Brian Ellis has seconded the first motion to adopt the 2021 AGM agenda. Marwa, could you please launch the poll for motion number 1? Board directors only, please vote promptly when it appears. You have 10 seconds to vote, board of directors. Marwa, could you please post the results? Great, this motion has passed. Thank you very much. And moving on to motion number 2, Tessa Christie has moved and Gloria Reed has seconded the motion to adopt the 2020 AGM minutes. Marwa, can you please launch the poll for motion number 2 for the board directors to complete? Board directors, please vote. You have 5 seconds. Marwa, could you please post the results? Great, the motion has passed. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the next agenda item. We have now completed our financial year-end 2020 with a draft audit just recently prepared by BLR Chartered Professional Accountants. Our board will be carrying out a thorough review of the report and voting on its approval at our June board meeting, after which the financials will be posted on the BurlingtonGreen's website. A brief user-friendly report on the draft 2020 financial outcomes after we complete a few more motions. And moving on to motion number 3, Sharon Clark has moved and Kevin Lowe has seconded the auditors for Burlington Green BLR be approved for the 2021 fiscal year. Marwa, can you please launch the poll for motion number 3? Thank you. Board directors, please vote. You have 5 seconds to vote. Marwa, could you please post the results? Thank you. This motion has been passed. Thank you very much. Our final motion is to approve our slate of directors for 2021. I'm very pleased that we have a full complement of incredibly talented and dedicated volunteers to fulfill these duties. They include David Bohr, Tessa Christie, Sharon Clark, Colin D'Souza, Brian Ellis, Susan Fraser, Francis Fu, Ken Lowe, Nicole Mark, Erica Minkhorst, Ushma Purohit, and Gloria Reed. And I'd also like to thank our departing director, Alex Farrow, for his terrific contributions and wish him every success going forward. So we move on to our final motion this evening. Brian Ellis and Susan Fraser have seconded the slate of directors for 2021 as nominated and recommended by the board. Marwa, could you please launch the poll for motion number 4? Directors, please vote promptly when the poll appears. You have 10 seconds. Marwa, could you please post the results? This motion has been passed. Thank you. Like many businesses and charities, BG was and continues to be affected by the challenges that come with COVID-19 pandemic. We had to reduce our staff complement last year, and we adopted a conservative, staggered approach when making use of much needed pandemic federal funding we received as we continually work to rebuild and stabilize. As we do every year, this slide provides a more user-friendly summary of our revenue expenses for 2020, our revenue and expenses, sorry. Looking at our revenue pie chart on the left, you can see how COVID support along with continuing grants represent the bulk of our income, followed by donations that were hugely grateful to our community for. Not surprisingly, 2020 saw additional efforts spent on fundraising and donor engagement. We are deeply grateful that a generous donor supports much of our fundraising costs. The bulk of our funds are allocated to the essential environmental programming carried out by our passionate and dedicated team members. As mentioned earlier, after the board has had the opportunity to review the auditor's report in the coming weeks, the official 2020 financial summary will be posted to the website. If you have any questions about the financials or any of the information shared thus far, please post in the chat or email me directly. And now I'd like to invite our Executive Director, Amy, back on to briefly share the impact highlights of 2020. Over to you, Amy.
Thanks again, Nicole. And I'm going to apologize in advance because if you can believe it, I'm experiencing some internet connection issues. So you've been freezing a little bit on me. So we'll just see how this goes. But good evening, everybody. And I'll be brief on this. Last year was a really exciting and impactful and challenging year. For those new to Burlington Green, our charity's vision is that everyone in Burlington recognizes that we're all connected to and dependent on the environment and acts on this understanding to ensure a good quality of life and a sustainable future. And we carry out our mission work to protect nature and mitigate climate change and create a healthier, more environmentally responsible Burlington through what we call a AAA approach, and that's awareness, advocacy, and action. Our work is guided by a 5-year strategic plan with measurable priorities in 3 key areas: identified environmental priorities, community empowerment, and growth and sustainability. And as you'll see in the following infographs, last year we forged ahead, working hard, even as the challenges of COVID were upon us all. The health of the environment absolutely cannot be put on hold, and is, of course, directly linked to our human health and to a healthy economy. So with reduced staff capacity, we pivoted much of our environmental priority work on smart communities, on green space, biodiversity, and zero waste, with a stronger focus on research, policy, and advocacy work, along with extensive online engagement, webinars, videos, and more. Our team also volunteered our time last year to become trained climate reality leaders, listening to and learning from some incredible educators, including the former US Vice President, Al Gore himself. We collaborated also last year again with our friends at the food bank, collecting and transferring a whopping 829 pounds of healthy, fresh produce, bringing our donation total to almost 8,700 pounds of local, healthy, fresh food to support local families and individuals in need right here in Burlington. And 2020 saw a 12% growth in our online audience to what I think might be the highest reach of all the Halton NGO groups at over 11,000 folks who we stay connected to, which is fantastic. And we're truly honored last year to be selected to be the not-for-profit of the year by the Chamber of Commerce. And for those who came on the call later, I do want to mention that on the call this evening, we have Kurt Koster, who was the kind gentleman who got the ball rolling on all this about 13 years ago. So thank you for joining us, Kurt. And that award that we received and all the work that's since come after is because of your vision and proactive. And in this final infograph, along with other things, it highlights some of our important growth and financial sustainability results. We were thrilled to welcome Sue to our team as our donor engagement and philanthropy manager. And while we were delighted and very grateful to realize an increase in donations last year, I would be remiss in not following through on my promise to Sue that I would take a moment now just to mention that we have a pretty big funding gap this year to fill. So as a registered charity, we're so pleased to be able to provide a tax receipt for those who can manage to help us out. Every dollar we receive, we put to work right here in Burlington to protect nature and improve the health of the environment for now and for the future. Going forward, we must all heed the lessons the pandemic has shown us. We've witnessed firsthand how all levels of government can urgently address an emergency in a nonpartisan way, investing the resources required with speed and scale. And this same urgent action must be taken to address the climate and biodiversity crises that continue to escalate. We can do this. We can build back to create a better world than before the pandemic, only if we prioritize, and along with a good measure of hope, together we can create a better world. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. And now back over to Nicole.
Thanks very much, Amy. Now we have a few minutes for your questions before we wrap up this portion of the evening and begin the second part of our event. Any questions we don't have time to address today, we will follow up with you after the meeting. You can also feel free to email myself at president@burlingtongreen.org. Sue, can you please share any questions posted to the chat or that you've received? That would be great.
Yeah, hi Nicole, hi everybody. I have not received any questions in the chat, and I've checked my email, and there don't appear to be any questions there either. So it seems like everyone's got the information they need, although, oh, there we go. There's a question now in the chat. What were some of the reports that you published? And I wonder if Marwa, do you have a sense of, could you share some of the reports?
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Marwa. I'm the operations manager at Burlington Green. Thank you all for joining us for our AGM tonight. We produced a variety of reports, some on research on community gardens in Burlington and what are some of the opportunities to advance those and increase their number. We've also did some granting reports to produce some great reports to donors on our impact. Those are just a variety of ones in addition to our advocacy focused reports as well that we put out. Please visit our website under various sections to see some of the reports that we have published. Thank you.
Sure. Did anybody else on the team want to add anything more about our reports?
I'll just chime in, if you will, Sue, and just mention that, picking up on what Marwa mentioned, yeah, we have a long-standing track record of evaluating and measuring all of our work. We feel that responsibility and accountability to all of our supporters and donors, etc. But more importantly, it also helps us to be strategic, ongoing. You know, the work that we're doing is so critical. We need to turn on a dime and pivot on our strategies. And some of the work, particularly in advocacy, it's so important we capture those in our reports as to how politicians voted or what were some of the outcomes for those policies, so that we can continue that work going forward. Particularly in advocacy, sometimes it can be many, many years until the fruits of our labors, and when I say our, I mean the community together with us speaking up on issues, until we can actually see it come to life or to fruition in bylaws or policies. A great example being is it took about a decade of countless individuals from Burlington Green and our supporters speaking up about the importance of tree protection. And that required a lot of research, a lot of reports, a lot of submissions, and patience. And eventually that tree protection bylaw, although not perfect, it needs work, at least there is something new. So it was really the reports that really we could share with our audience and within our team that really helped guide that work. So I'm really glad somebody asked about reporting, because that's hugely important. Thank you so much.
So yeah, we still have some time if there's more questions. I wanted to mention that you don't have to use the chat. You could use the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen, way at the bottom to the far right, most likely, depends on what you're using. You'll see a little smiley face with a plus sign up here. And if you click on that, you'll probably see an option to raise hand, which will bump your video up to the front of the gallery, and we'll be able to see that you'd like to be recognized and speak. Or you could just unmute your mic and speak up. We'd love to hear from you. So to unmute your mic, you might want to go to the participants list and scroll to your name and then click on the mic icon, or you could go to the lower left portion of your screen for this Zoom call and see a microphone icon there that you could click on. And for those who aren't seeing the chat, I'll say that Paul asked the question and says, very well done, thank you. That's very nice.
And just a suggestion, Sue, if none of our guests are, until some of our guests maybe chime in, is if any of the board of directors want to comment on, why they decided to join and become an ambassador of Burlington Green and what they enjoy most about the organization, feel free to share that, because you're all members of the community yourselves.
Oh, there we go. Hand up.
Can I talk?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, my name is Kurt Koster. Some of you may have heard of me. I just have one question. Amy Schnurr has been doing a fantastic job building Burlington Green where it is today from 2007. But is there any planning by the board for the long-term position of executive director, just to make sure that in case Amy decides to retire to some distant tropical island, that there's some planning in effect to look for someone or to train someone who can take over her position, which is going to be very, very difficult, of course.
Kurt, it's Nicole, and I think that's a very excellent question with regards to succession planning for Amy. And I would say we do need to be looking at that. We've had discussions, and I would say that it is something of. I think we need to be a little bit more diligent to the succession planning. I don't know, Gloria, if there's anything else that you would want to add to that, but it is something that the board does look at and is trying to plan for.
Thanks, Nicole. It's Gloria Reed, and I'm chair of the Nominations and Governance Committee. We have 3 standing committees of the board of directors. And this one, it's right in our area of responsibility to look at succession planning. And yes, it is something, thanks Kurt for the question. We never want to think of that day, but it's going to come. And yes, we are actively looking at it's on our work plan, and it's moving up, as Nicole said, in priority, but then again, we don't want to jinx it. So all kidding aside, it is something we take very seriously. And so we do that as part of the oversight.
I'd like to jump in, if I may. There's actually 2 questions that have been submitted in the chat, one to everyone and one to me. One question is, what projects are you most excited about for the coming year? And the other one is, how does a community member become involved with your organization? So I don't know if somebody wants to, Marwa, maybe you could talk about how a community member becomes involved in Burlington Green?
For sure. Thank you for your interest in being involved with our organization. There's loads of stuff that you can do. The environment certainly needs us, pandemic or not. I would say even more during the pandemic. Some of the exciting things we have going on right now is our Green Up campaign. There's always opportunities to green up safely from the comfort of your own home. And if you if you register with our Clean Up Green Up campaign, there's prizes, giveaways, supports, resources, and an opportunity to get native seed plants as well. Some of the other things that you could do is you can check out our resources. If you're planning the next event, once we're able to host those, or become more engaged with our community spotlight features. This is where you can see stories of some of our volunteers and community members who are doing great things around the city and just very, very inspirational work.
Thanks,
a program
Marwa.
that is...
I'm just noticing we're getting very close to 7 o'clock. So, and I think in the next portion, hopefully everyone can stay for the next portion when we'll be sharing some other ways to get involved. So I think we need to finish up now, and Nicole will complete our program, and any questions we haven't been able to address, we'll address after the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. I appreciate that. And as Sue mentioned, any questions that we didn't have time to address, we'll follow up with you after the meeting. And then again, feel free to email myself at president@burlingtongreen.org with any other questions that may pop up that you have. I would like to thank everyone for attending this part of the evening. And I also want to thank our board of directors, our executive director, Amy, the Burlington Green team, our volunteers, and everyone else who enabled us to continue providing high quality service in support of our mission during another strange year. Your continued help and support, your good humor, your patience, and your ability to work more smartly and efficiently this past year has contributed to the great performance of Burlington Green. As Amy mentioned earlier on, the health of the environment needs our local efforts more than ever before. And we can't carry out this important work without your participation and support. We invite you to speak up on the various call to action issues that we share. Politicians at all levels of government need to hear from their constitutes that action on climate change and environmental protection matters to you. And there's certainly no shortage on key issues happening right now. We hope that you will continue to participate in our many programs and events, just as you all have done kindly this evening. For example, you can help green up Burlington through rewarding home activities that we share on our website and social media platforms. And to discover more about our offerings and local eco news all year long, be sure to join our mailing lists so you can look forward to receiving our popular monthly newsletters. And if you're already a subscriber, invite a friend to join and follow us on social media. Those are additional quick and easy ways that you can help grow a stronger community of environmental stewards right here in Burlington. As Amy mentioned earlier, we certainly appreciate the donations of any amount, and we put to work and to maximize our effectiveness and impact. Together, we truly do make a positive difference. I would like to thank you all again very much for attending. I'd like to adjourn the Burlington Green AGM and invite everyone to stay on the call for the second part of our event. And that is the seating change hosted by BG's Senior Program Coordinator, Kale Black. And I'm gonna pass it over to Kale now. Thanks very much.